Hi, I'm Marie Cox, author of Murder by Deed, and I've got a second novella out on Amazon called The Course of True Love Never Did Run Smooth, and I got that title, of course, from Mr. Shakespeare. I wanted to share with you a couple of chapters from my new novella. Again, it's on Amazon.com. You can get it through their Kindle store, and remember, you can always download free Kindle software as well onto your PCs and laptops. The question hung in the air, like a bad smell. How the hell did I get to this place in my life? Bad choices, just consecutive bad choices. But this time no escape was in sight, and I was all alone. Really all alone. The middle-aged police officer in front of me wore a tired and cynical expression, as if to say that he had seen it all before and believed no one. I must have looked the part of a true criminal. Blood was spattered all over the front of my body. My hair was even a bit matted from it. But I'm telling you, just like I'm telling him, I'm innocent. I did nothing wrong. Well, okay, let me amend that. I did not kill Louise. At least I didn't do that. God, I'll never get that scene out of my mind. It keeps playing over and over like a recurring dream. Just a few days ago, Louise and I had been at lunch at Guido's by Murray Hill, laughing like schoolgirls over something I can't even remember now. And now she's in the morgue being dissected and examined by total strangers. Strangers who would never know her inner beauty, or the fact that she was the only true friend I had ever had, or probably ever would. They would never know that it was that inner beauty, that generous heart, that kind and naive heart, that got her killed. But no one would believe me. No one. Louise Marie Jensen's divorce proved to be anticlimactic. After 6 long months of fighting and lawyers and threats and negotiations, the 1-hour court proceeding this morning with the issuance of the decree proved dramatically disappointing and underwhelming. So much for going out with a bang, she thought as she walked to her car. Her now ex-husband Matt threatened the big bang at the end, but once again he fell short. There's something to be said about consistency, though. Louise unlocked her car, got in, and started the engine. Just as she was about to shift gears, someone pounded on her car window. "Christ, Matt, you scared the hell out of me," Louise screamed. Matt Jensen, leaning down and peering at her through her still-closed window, wore a sadistic grin. "You think you're free, don't you, Louise?" "Matt, it's over. Please just leave me alone," Louise said as she began to ease out of the parking space. "Oh, no, Louise, it's far from being over. I'm not through with you yet, you bitch," Matt said as he grabbed for her door handle. Louise peeled out of the space and sped out of the parking garage, feeling a bit shaken up. Matt had threatened her financially many times and verbally abused her, but he had never teetered so close to physical abuse or threats as he did now. This was not the Matt she had known, and at times loved, over the past 15 years. When they had first met, he had been a struggling psychologist trying to build up his practice since he had just relocated from Denver to Cleveland. God, 15 years of sharing a life together, and she still didn't really know the real Matt Jensen. What had come up through the divorce proceedings certainly stunned and shocked her. Her lawyer, Christy McNaughton, revealed Matt's 2 previous marriages and shaky financial situation, not to mention the hottie on the side, his secretary, Mary Bergen. God, what a fool, a trusting fool I had been, Louise thought as she drove to meet her good friend Annette for lunch in Lakewood. Annette wanted to be there for her at the courthouse, but Louise had persuaded her to meet her at the restaurant instead. Matt had never appreciated Annette's strong and supportive presence in Louise's life, and she didn't want any trouble, even at the end. Traffic was light, so Louise arrived at the lakeside restaurant Giorgio's early, and she went straight to the bar. She deserved and needed a drink, and she thought with mild amusement it was 5 somewhere. That phrase had always been hers and Annette's running philosophy in the early days, when they had been college friends at John Carroll University. God, that seemed so long ago. Giorgio, the owner, bartended at times, and he was waiting for Louise with his usual charming grin and gentlemanly ways. "Ah, Miss Jensen, please sit down here and tell me what you want today." Giorgio pulled out the bar stool and took her coat. "Thank you, Giorgio. I'm not sure what I want today, but I put myself in your capable hands. Surprise me." Giorgio grinned and bowed. "I will mix you a potion from paradise, one which will take you as close to the Elysian fields as possible on this earth." Louise smiled and took out her cigarettes and lighter. Giorgio stopped mixing her drink and looked at her. I know, no smoking here. These are just my props, my friend. I just like to smell the cigarettes every so often. Does that make any sense?" Giorgio nodded and smiled a bit sadly at her. "Miss Jensen, this is the first day of the rest of your life, yes? You are like the mythical phoenix that rises from its own ashes to begin anew. Now begins a brand new chapter in your life, as the saying goes. Ah, Giorgio, always the poet and philosopher. Just as she was fondling her cigarettes, a tall and lithe woman with blonde hair walked in the restaurant bar. Giorgio glanced up from his work and smiled broadly. Miss Evans, what a delight. Louise turned around to greet her good friend. Annette Evans always looked immaculate, and today was no exception. Although she approached her 50th year, she could easily pass for a young 40. An avid swimmer and consummate fish and salad eater, Annette possessed a body most women envied and hated at the same time. She quickly crossed the room and gave Louise a warm hug. Louise, I thought of you all morning. How are you holding up, hon? Annette smiled at Giorgio and took a seat next to Louise. Ah, Annette, I can't tell you how glad I am to see you, but you've been such a support throughout this hellish ordeal. Giorgio placed a rather large cosmopolitan in front of Louise. Annette indicated she liked the same. Then Annette returned her full attention to her friend. God, despite it all, Louise looked great, tired but still stunning. Just over 5'4", Louise truly had not changed much since high school. Sure, there were crow's feet and highlighted hair, but Louise's youthful vitality, those baby blue eyes, breathtaking smile, and seductive figure remained unchanged. What never ceased to amaze Annette was Louise's perfect cluelessness about her natural beauty and its effect on others. Take a sip of your drink and tell me about this morning, Annette said as she slipped her suit coat off and placed it on her chair. She was dressed simply but elegantly in a tailored lavender pantsuit that showcased her figure. The pearls around her neck hailed from one of the tropical islands she frequented each winter season. Her subtle tan never varied, whether it be summer or winter. After complying with Annette's thoughtful directive, Louise related the events of the morning, ending with Matt's appearance in the parking garage. What do you think he meant? The divorce certainly ends whatever relationship you both had together, so of course it's over, Annette said as she polished off her drink, which Giorgio had discreetly placed before her without disturbing their conversation. I'm not sure, Annette, but he frightened me, really frightened me this time. Well, maybe that's what he wants to do, Lou. I mean, he always seemed to get off scaring and intimidating you, Annette noted. Giorgio approached the ladies. Would you two beauties like another round of paradise? They both smiled and nodded their assent. You know, Lou, maybe a vacation is in order for you now. Just take a week or two to unwind and think about what you'd like to do next with your life. Get away from this familiar scenery and escape for a bit. How does that sound? Louise glanced away from her friend and looked at her second Cosmo, which Giorgio had just delivered. With her fingers, she gently traced the rim of the chilled martini glass. To escape, even temporarily, certainly was tempting to Louise. She was tired of feeling stressed and worried, and she was tired of meetings with lawyers and the late-night calls from Matt. Maybe she should get away for a while. Well, Annette said, pulling Louise back into the conversation, where would I go? What would I do? 2 questions I can answer with ease. How about Bonds Cay and the Berry Islands? There's my secluded cottage with a view you well remember. And if you choose downtown, still offers quite a nightlife. The island's seafood is superb. As you know, they catch and cook it on the same day, so it's fresh. Plus, there's an impressively stocked library with some rare finds, which you often found interesting, my writer friend. And of course, snorkeling, scuba diving, not to mention one of your favorite activities, horseback riding on the beach. The more Annette talked, the more interested and excited Louise became about this escape plan. And Annette could see this in her friend's face. Bonds Cay, on more than one occasion, had saved Annette's sanity, and she hoped the same for her friend. The island had been in Annette's family for a few generations, easily transitioning with the peaceful transfer of political power in 1992, and now it was solely hers. Only a chosen few had ever been invited to her paradise in the Bahamas, and Louise numbered among those few. Their friendship and love went back, it seemed, forever, and Annette truly treasured Louise in her life. What about Max, though? Max was Louise's beloved yellowed Labrador retriever, a rescue from 3 years ago. Well, I could take care of Max while you're gone, or you could bring him with you. He could fly down to Miami with you, and then one of my charters can take you two to the island. How does that sound? Oh, Annette, you are such a dear. God, how I appreciate you I appreciate you, and not just because you own Bonds Cay. They both laughed and hugged each other as Giorgio finally looked on. God, this sucks. Absolutely sucks. I can't believe this is happening. My God, how did it all go so wrong? Better yet, when did it all go so wrong? Our time together on the island was magical. So much laughter and fun and friendship. And now here I am at the police station, practically accused of murder. Murder! Jesus, this was insane, insane. I should never have left the island, never. Although I'm not sure that would have changed much, except for my being there at the end with Louise, and being here now at the station. But that had been determined as soon as I saw her step off the charter plane and onto my island. She looked just like a movie star arriving for a location shoot. Glamorous, cool, elegant, and a bit aloof. That did it for me, literally and figuratively. There was no one else for me but Louise from that moment on, but I had to convince her that I was the only one for her. Stop this. Just stop it. What's the point in going back down memory lane, especially now? Well, for one thing, I've got lots of time now, don't I? God knows when Mr. Cynical Cop will come back, or when those behind that two-way mirror get tired of looking at my show. Besides, it might shed some light on this horror. Well, those are just a few chapters of The Course of True Love Never Did Run Smooth, and I think you've heard at least a couple of the characters that are going to be appearing later in the chapters as well in this second novel of mine on Amazon.com. So this getaway from a nasty divorce and Louise Jensen just wanting to relax and renew herself begins a chain of events that will end up tragically. End up with murder, more than one, and a tragic end for a dear character. So I hope you enjoy the rest of The Course of True Love Never Did Run Smooth on Amazon.com in their Kindle store for $1.99. And remember, if you don't have a Kindle, I don't have a Kindle, you can always download free Kindle software onto your laptop or PC. Again, my name is Marie Cox, and I thank you for listening, and I thank you for your continued support. Take care.